Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, even though we're at a Hyatt. Can't help it. But I'm excited to spend the next 15 minutes or so telling you how Hilton uses people analytics to define our HR strategy and ultimately deliver value for our team members, but also for our guests and for our owners. And I'm particularly excited to be at the Wharton Analytics Conference because my first gig in HR at Capital One was leading our people analytics function. And ever since then, no matter what role I've had in HR, I've always wanted to have that team and that function really close because I can't imagine doing my work, or doing any HR work for that matter, without people analytics. So, first off, I'd love to level set a little bit on who we are as an organization. We're a very big people org. Hilton has over 380,000 team members. We work in over 100 countries, 5 generations. We're roughly 50% millennial, 45% female. We speak 40 languages, and we represent 170 different nationalities. And to give you a little bit of a sense of the types of jobs that we have, so of those 380,000 team members, roughly 10,000 are your corporate types, so all the functions that you might expect around our various corporate offices. And so that leaves 370,000 people who clean your rooms, who serve you food, who welcome you at our properties. We have 85,000 housekeepers. We have 140,000 team members working at food and beverage outlets as chefs, as bartenders, as servers. And so we know that we're in the business of people serving people. And for us in HR, that starts with serving our team members and understanding what their hopes and dreams are, what world they live and work in, who they are at a deep level before we can get into the business of figuring out what's our HR strategy, what kind of programs do we need for them. So let's look at that. We know that our team members' experience with us, like that of our guests, starts with a dream. We actually call this the dream functionality, when our guests are dreaming up their next family vacation or dreaming of that career trip that will change the trajectory of their profession, that bucket list vacation. And our team members, well, they're dreaming of a better future for their families. They're dreaming of professional opportunities that maybe their parents didn't have. They're dreaming of global leadership. And when we deliver on those dreams with a great environment, great careers, great rewards, then we know we're on our way to driving engagement and retention, loyalty, and ultimately their advocacy, which is good for business. The world our team members live and work in, as you all know, is crazy. And so we've got, the rather pedestrian pressures of trying to do more with less. We all face that. But our team members in 2017 alone also faced geopolitical strife, not only the threat, but the reality of terrorism. They face technology overloads, natural disasters. They often are called upon to provide a safe haven for their families, their communities, and our guests. The intense dialogue around inclusion and gender in the workplace is something that resonates deeply and impacts our team members. And so we need to factor all of this in and keep our finger on the pulse of everything that's happening around the world in those 103 countries so that we can understand what our team members are going through and some of the inputs and stressors to their experience with us. And then, of course, there's the data. So with a population of our size and the turnover rates that we see, we collect on average 2 billion-ish data points on people every year. And we roughly break that into 3 categories. We've got sort of the level 1 data, the demographic data, race, age, gender, nationality, languages, your educational and professional background, your home address, believe it or not, the distance that our team members live from the properties where they work on is actually an indicator of how long they'll stay with us. So 2 further miles from our property, and they're much more likely to attrite within a couple of months of joining. Then we take a look at attitudinal data. We've got our own global team member survey. We ask 75 questions. We're now in our 10th cycle. And we have all the usual suspects in there. We ask questions on environment, compensation, our values, our leadership. 3 years ago, we actually introduced a leadership index where we take a subset of those questions and derive an index that measures our leaders' performance. And 10% of their bonus is actually directly tied to how they perform. So based on what their team members think of them. And we measure this not only in absolute values, how did you do this year, but how did you improve or deteriorate over last year? Because we want to encourage that continuous improvement for our leaders. We also collect attitudinal data from external partners. So in the last year, we've partnered with McKinsey and Lean In to do a deeper dive into gender in the workplace issues. And we surveyed our men and women around the world and compared that to what the McKinsey and Lean In Institute were finding as far as key trends in North America. And we identified areas where we could do better, and we identified areas where we felt really good about our work. We've also partnered with the Great Place to Work Institute in over 15 countries to try to measure ourselves against the very best workplaces in the regions that matter the most to us. And lastly, we collect behavioral data. So of our team members, who's doing well? Who's getting that coveted top rating? Who's getting promoted? Who's leaving us? Who's moving around the organization? And as you can imagine, the greatest insights come from the interplay of these three sources. So when we look at how are high-performing millennial women feeling about benefits in Saudi Arabia, that's a really interesting insight as we're looking to grow our female leaders in that region. And so far, the story is pretty compelling. We're not at a place of crisis. We're seeing high performer turnover rate at 1/3 that of our average team members. We're seeing their promotion rates at nearly double the average promotion rates. Our high performers are more engaged, and they're more satisfied with their pay and benefits. But we're also seeing that our high performers are at a greater risk of burnout, a greater risk of poaching, and have been approached by more competitors in the last year. So, as we look at all these data sources, we tend to try to overanalyze. And I suspect that some of you may have been in that same situation. We look at not only the data from all these surveys and our demographic data and their performance data, but we also need to cull through nearly 250,000 comments that we get every year from our various surveys. And so we look at sentiment analysis and text analytics, and we try to weed out just the empty complainers. And we ultimately want to land at what are the insights, right? When we look at the response trends of people who have either left us or the high performers who are telling us they might, or what would drive further engagement, we actually found that our team members are deeply engaged in the what of work. They actually love to serve our guests. Shockingly, they love to clean your rooms, feed you. And yet, what we were finding is that the how and the why of work is where we had a little bit of work to do. And so our key drivers of retention here are, one, our team members want to feel an alignment with a greater sense of meaning and purpose, that they're a part of something larger than themselves, and that they're a part of something that's larger than their one role, their one property, the one country that they work for. Secondly, they want us to put our money where our mouth is. So they want to see an ecosystem of benefits that supports them at the moments that matter. They want to see our values in action. And then lastly, they are holding our leaders accountable to creating conditions for them to thrive. So our leadership index is nice, but they want to see that go a step further. How are leaders truly creating an environment of inclusion where people can bring their best selves to work, their authentic selves to work, they can take risks, they have the psychological safety to do so. So we took all of this into account, and we felt that we needed to take a bit of a leap of faith and have a more compelling HR strategy, a bigger narrative that would tie all of this together. And so in 2017, we launched Thrive at Hilton. And we did this in partnership with Arianna Huffington's new startup, Thrive Global. We knew, once again, we weren't coming at this from a place of crisis, but rather from a place of deeper insight into what mattered around the world. We wanted an HR value proposition and a promise to all of our team members that was globally compelling and simple enough to engage with, because nuance is kind of hard to scale in 103 countries and 170 nationalities. So Thrive at Hilton is really based on 3 pillars: body, mind, and spirit. So we took all that data and synthesized it into this promise that we will take care of the basics, that's the body pillar. We're going to evolve the way that we work and lead, that's the mind pillar, to create space for what matters in the world. Connections with others, recognition, innovation, and that's the spirit pillar. We launched last year. We've activated with e-learnings, leadership development, a new Thrive Index tied to our survey. And then we kind of just lit it up and let our team members around the world bring this to life in ways that was meaningful to them. And what we saw come back really surprised us. So team members, propping up meditation rooms, doing body language training, finding new ways to innovate together and drive teamwork depending on staffing models and occupancy levels of our properties. And we also made a commitment to invest in a few key areas where we felt that we could make an organizational centralized investment. And so I'll walk you through a couple of those programs. Our heart of house. So this is part of our body pillar. And we quite literally didn't just want to focus on our team members' bodies, nutrition, sleep, exercise, all those things are important, and we provide benefits to take care of those. But we also wanted to invest in the physical environment where they work. And not only the guest-facing environment, we're usually quite proud of those, but if you had walked through our back of house, which we now lovingly call the heart of house, it wasn't all beautiful marble floors and fresh flowers. Oftentimes, actually, the entrance to many properties is right by the dumpsters. So how do you think your team members feel when they're walking in on their way to work? So we wanted to change all that. We wanted to have welcoming entrances. We wanted to have engaging spaces. We wanted to have not cafeterias, but restaurants, not uniforms, but wardrobes. And so we set aside funds and investments to rethink this whole experience and re-engineer what it means to recharge. Where do you get dressed? Where do you eat? Where do you put on your uniforms? Where do you wash them? Where do you connect with your peers? And we've launched this Heart of House initiative and are rolling it out to all of our properties around the world with new standards, just like we have for our guest rooms, around what the back of house will look like for our team members. And I've toured a number of these around the world, and they are spectacular. I was just at the Hilton in Midtown New York earlier this week and saw the cafeteria there. This is a property that has over 1,000 employees, and they serve free breakfast, lunch, and dinner to all of those team members. We've partnered with Under Armour to create these new athlete wardrobes for our team members, because I'd ask any of you to try to make 20 beds in a burlap sack, which is pretty much what we were outfitting them with before. And now they have a new sense of pride in their wardrobes. They have mix and match options and a renewed energy about the work that they do. Secondly, our family-focused benefits. We've been on a bit of a journey on this one. So a couple of years ago, I was actually relatively new in my rewards role and was looking at an inventory of our benefits and landed on parental leave and maternity leave. And we were competitive. We were offering just as little as all of our competitors. And figured, that's really not aligned with our values and who we are. Our first value is hospitality. And what better way to demonstrate that than supporting our team members when they're welcoming a new child into their families? So we launched an entirely revamped parental leave program. All of our birth mothers, from the housekeepers to our C-suite now, receive 10 weeks of fully paid leave. And that may not sound like much when you're comparing it to some of our high-tech players or mostly professional services firms, but it is a game changer for the hourly workers in this country. We supplemented that with an adoption assistance program, where any team member in the US gets $10,000 for any adoptive child with no limit on the number of children they may adopt. We further enhanced that with bereavement leave, better PTO programs. And over the last couple of years, we've been slaving away on our new discount travel program. We had one, and it was okay, but we really wanted to up our game in this space, because the most beloved benefit that our team members actually wanted to experience was the ability to travel to the properties that they love so much. And so we worked with revenue management and really tried to understand, what are some occupancy levels that we can forecast? Can we find a win-win here? When there are unused rooms, could we pump them through to our team members at greatly discounted rates that I'm almost embarrassed to cite here, because you all are hopefully regular paying customers of Hilton. But imagine going to the Conrad in the Maldives for 70 bucks a night. Our team members are able to do that. And we've been able to generate value for our owners by pumping more than 200 million nights into the system of otherwise unused revenue since we launched Go Hilton. We've extended that benefit to friends and family because we wanted to have that hook where if you ever even think of leaving Hilton, your relatives are like, are you crazy? We don't want to lose that benefit. And I've actually heard people tell me that. And then lastly, flexibility. It's one thing, again, to think of flexibility for your corporate employees. It's relatively straightforward. Grab your laptop, go to a Starbucks, deliver the goods. But how do you clean a room remotely? What does flexibility mean for our hourly staff? So we found out that the key pain points were scheduling. It's not unusually, it's actually the norm, and many of you maybe have seen this or have worked hourly jobs, for you to get a call the day of to say, we need you, we don't need you. It's impossible to plan your life that way. So we've committed to 10 days advance notice for all of our hourly workers. And we've also used AI automation and analysis to look at the patterns of schedule, tie those up to forecast occupancy, and try to create blocks of work for our team members that they can really plan their lives around. So these are just 3 examples of programs that we've implemented to support Thrive at Hilton, to show our team members that our values are not just words on a page, that we will put our money where our mouth is, and that we are committed to creating a great place to work for all. So it was very important for us to not footnote and exclude the hourly workers, but actually solve this with them first in mind. And our results would show so far that it's working. And this is really important to us, because while we lead with our values, we need to demonstrate an ROI to our owners. We operate in a franchise model or a managed model where there are owners behind the scenes looking to get a return on their investment. And so while we need to show some potential returns when we pitch them these benefits, it's really nice 1 year in to see a 1 percentage point increase in engagement. May not sound like much, but we were already at a pretty all-time high. Around the world, 1% decrease in turnover. So given our total number of employees, these are thousands of people who chose to stay with us this year and would have otherwise left based on our historical figures. And obviously, I can't claim that only HR contributed to increased guest satisfaction and revenue, but I think we played a part. In the US, actually, this 1% turnover reduction is 5 percentage points. That's nearly $20 million in savings in 1 year alone. So the returns are there. The analytics help to show that proof. Our process is really simple. We start with that dream. Within HR, we need to keep the humans, the people, always at the forefront. I work for our hourly employees. My mission is to create a great culture for our housekeepers and for our executives, for our women and for our men. And so I need to understand in a deep way what their hopes and dreams are, how they're consistent around the world, and how they're different. We collect the data, extract the insights, define our strategy, action plan, and measure our outcomes. You're no strangers to any of this. And when we do this right, and when People Analytics helps along the way, then hopefully our team members can transcend all those issues around the world. And they look at Hilton as not only a place of employment, of work, of compensation, of productivity, but that they look at Hilton as a place of community, of fulfillment, of learning, of growth, of safety. That is a place of joy, a place where they can thrive. So we're taking small steps on this journey, and People Analytics is what's really helping us fuel the engine. Thank you for having me.